Well, we have a bit of an update to this morning's news wave, as we had talked about there being rumors and reports that something Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom related would be happening this week. This originally came out of PAX East, with Nintendo Prime and others mentioning this in a video and even pointing to Tuesday for there to be something from Tears of the Kingdom. And, well, we got that announcement today, and I wanted to more or less talk a bit about it now, since by the time Newswave happens tomorrow, we'll only be a couple of hours from seeing probably our best look at gameplay for this incredibly anticipated title from Nintendo, and we're going to go over that here today. So if you guys enjoy the video, make sure you like it, subscribe if you're new, and we're going to start with this video sponsor. Today's video is sponsored by Guardian Tales. Guardian Tales is a pixel art-styled adventure RPG for the Nintendo Switch that pays homage to classic RPGs. Experience an epic fantasy sci-fi crossover story where you play as a guardian knight who is destined to protect the Canterbury Kingdom from invaders. Throughout your adventures, you meet other guardians as you work together to save the world. It's an unforgettable journey filled with action, puzzle solving, and thrilling battles. Each weapon and character has unique skills, adding a ton of strategy and depth to the combat. Throughout Guardian Tales, there are fun, game-popping puzzles that will challenge your problem-solving skills. You also have hidden treasures and stories to uncover. Embark on a thrilling conclusion to the first season of Guardian Tales with the fully updated World 11 available on March 21st. The journey with the princess will come to a close as you face a formidable boss and make a pivotal choice that determines your fate. Check out Guardian Tales using the link in the description below and embark on your own classic adventure today. Thanks once again to Guardian Tales for sponsoring today's video. Definitely a big shout out to Guardian Tales, though, for supporting the channel here, and appreciate you guys sticking with me there for a minute or two. The sponsorships do indeed help support the channel quite a bit. Let's head over here, though, to Twitter, and this is what got the internet absolutely excited earlier this morning. And we can see Nintendo of America join the Legend of Zelda series producer E.G. Aonuma for roughly 10 minutes of gameplay from the Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom on March 28th at 7 a.m. Pacific, 10 a.m. Eastern Time. So as I mentioned, a couple of hours after Newswave goes live, this will be taking place. The interesting thing, though, now about Twitter, they show impressions on tweets, and that does give people the ability to kind of gauge how much interest can be around a tweet outside of just the likes and retweets and even replies to them, right? In this case, in 4 hours, over 3 million impressions on this. Now, that can also just be from people, I guess, scrolling past it or anything, but it's pretty obvious. There is a lot of interest and anticipation, go figure, around the sequel to The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, a game that I've seen many people say immediately became their favorite Zelda game ever made. Some, it's their favorite game ever, right? But think about the storied history of The Legend of Zelda and all the different benchmarks that it set in its history, going all the way back to the original Nintendo. So the hype and anticipation around this game, as well as the expectations, are through the roof. So let's kind of discuss a bit about what could be here and why some people are maybe even a little confused as to one aspect to this, and that has to do with the amount of time that they're allotting to this, all right? And it's interesting. Okay, so 10 minutes of gameplay. Now, it's good that it appears we're going to have extended gameplay here and not just snippets of 5 to 6 seconds of, oh, what's going on there? Okay, what's that? Okay, now we're on to Link driving around in this, like, this vehicle that it appears he built, and that just led to more questions than answers, and I think many of us are looking for what's the big aha moment? What's the thing that sets this apart from Breath of the Wild? I think that's a fair question to ask at this time, but 10 minutes, it does feel like, okay, so obviously there's a marketing team whose job is to market this game, and it's been very limited as to what they can market it with. And on the other side, it does feel like they're being very secretive around this game, and that could be from Aonuma and the developers, and they're like, look, we have a really good game here, and we want to keep it close to the chest leading up to launch, because there are parts in here that would legitimately spoil that big aha moment for people when they get the game in their hands. And yes, there's a lot of trust being placed in the Zelda team and Nintendo right now, but I think there's a lot of people that would say, hey, they've earned it after seeing Breath of the Wild. I believe that Tears of the Kingdom is going to be one of those upper echelon releases for an entire generation of a platform with the Switch. then that brings us again to what could they show here? Well, gameplay being the most obvious, right? I assume what we're going to see here is Aonuma sitting down and actually playing the game. Like, controller, you see the dog controller there, the 2 Joy-Cons and the grip. I assume he's going to be at this table here and actually run around in the game and play it. And they're probably going to cut parts of it up so it flows a bit better than, as an example, that live stream that we saw for Final Fantasy 16. That went on for just over an hour, and they sat down and indeed did play it, but there were times they were banter back and forth with the live audience or mess around with certain aspects to it that just really lengthened the amount of time that they were there playing it. So I think this is going to be pretty quick, concise, and to the point for every single aspect they're trying to demonstrate there. To me, though, the biggest thing I would like to see is the world itself, because that's kind of the aspect that I think will play into like the big aha moment for a lot of people with this game, is just how large the world is relative to Breath of the Wild, because I think there's going to be a lot of verticality here, as they've demonstrated with Link Fortnite parachuting in, basically skydiving. I think the fact that we could have 3 levels of exploration here with sky, ground, and potentially underground, I mean, this could be a massive, massive game. And then also think about it this way. It could be one of the largest games we've seen in general, definitely from Nintendo. And that might even be looking at something like Xenoblade, which already feels massive. But to go a step further, it will also be on a handheld system, as the Switch is hybrid. And at times, games like Xenoblade still can blow people's mind, the fact that it is on a system you can take with you. Now, aside from the world itself, mechanics that would, of course, let us take advantage of that open world would be very important. We've seen things with Link going through solid objects. Obviously, his arm, that plays into it, as well as different abilities they've shown where he's manipulating things around him. And the thing that's interesting about Breath of the Wild is the world itself has been mapped out pretty thoroughly at this point. But the part that people keep discovering still to this day has to do with the physics and the interactivity in the world. I mean, the first thing you go through and you realize, oh, I can chop down a tree, you can interact with grass, but then we get into physics and different powers that allow you to launch Link across the world. There's a lot of attention to detail on that aspect, and I kind of think they're taking it to the next level here. And while I'm sure they're going to avoid any kind of story spoilers, there's a lot of stuff that could just be hidden in the game outside of the lore that just has to do with the gameplay and what you can actually do in this large interactive sandbox. And obviously the other thing they're going to show here, and I feel like they have to, is the Switch. The Zelda-themed Switch that leaked out. I do believe that's a thing, and you don't have much more time to have retailers get it ready. I guess they don't necessarily have to spend a lot of time here on it, since they can have an image come up, show it, take about 15 to 20 seconds, and then Nintendo can tweet about it afterwards and open pre-orders at a later date and all those sorts of things. But that, maybe amiibos, maybe even Joy-Cons, that's actually the thing I wouldn't mind seeing, is them to allow the Joy-Cons to be purchased separately, because I don't really need another Switch. And we're still starting to get to that point where we wonder, okay, a year from now, are we going to be talking about this same Switch, or will there be another one that's being marketed by Nintendo? But the thing I think we can all count on with this, there's going to be more questions than answers afterwards, because while I'm sure they will give us an idea as to gameplay, maybe scope of the title, I'm sure they're also going to have different frames that flash by that people zoom in on and are curious, especially about the lore itself. And if they jump around when it comes to like save points or different things in the world, show us this angle over here next to a big body of water, then all of a sudden we're underground, then we're up in the sky. There's going to be a lot of people trying to fit all the pieces together. So I do also wonder, is this the last big push from Nintendo for this game, or will there be another sit down with Aonuma, or even an entire direct for this weeks ahead of release? Again, it does seem strange. 10 minutes. You can't figure that's all they have for Tears of the Kingdom ahead of launch, can you? Hey, maybe they're thinking, you know what? Breath of the Wild was that good, and people do trust us, so we're going to hold everything, all the cards close to the chest, and then when it leaks a week before, we'll go ahead and say everything, because the game's going to leak. It's their highest profile release in a long time. So if someone's going to get it early, they're going to dump it online, data mining will happen, and it'll be a nightmare for all of us and Nintendo to deal with leading up to release. But let me know what you guys think about this one down below. What are your hopes that they show here, and what are your expectations? Thanks, guys, for watching, and I'll see you next time.